The envelope sat squarely in the middle of Anna Herzfeld's breakfast table. It had arrived with the morning post, slipped under her apartment door just after 6. She had not touched it yet. The heavy cream paper caught the pale June light filtering through the window of her narrow Berlin flat, and Anna stared at it as she sipped her coffee. Outside, the city was waking slowly. A horse cart clattered over cobblestones on Brunnenstrasse. Voices drifted up from the bakery below. Ordinary sounds for an ordinary Thursday. But the envelope made the room feel smaller. It was addressed to her by name, a typed label with no return address. The seal on the back, pressed into red wax, bore the double-headed eagle of Austria-Hungary. Anna had been a clerk at the German Foreign Office for 4 years. She knew that seal. She knew what it meant when official correspondence bypassed the regular diplomatic pouches and came directly to a junior secretary's home. It meant someone wanted no record in the chancellery logbooks. It meant speed and secrecy. It meant trouble. She set down her cup and picked up the envelope. The wax was still firm, the edges crisp. She turned it over in her fingers, feeling the weight of the paper inside. A single sheet, she guessed. Maybe 2. A sense of foreboding settled in her chest. The summer of 1914 had been quiet so far, unnaturally quiet. The newspapers spoke of tensions in the Balkans, of the old Emperor Franz Joseph's fragile health, of Serbian nationalists who dreamed of breaking away. But Berlin hummed with its own rhythms. Trade, politics, the annual summer recess of the Reichstag. No one expected a crisis. Anna looked at the seal again. The eagle's wings were spread wide, its claws empty. She did not open the letter. Not yet. She knew that once she read it, the quiet would be gone. This small rectangle of paper would become a hinge. Everything would turn on it. She rose from the table and slipped the envelope into her handbag. Time to go to work. The morning sun was already fierce by the time Anna reached Wilhelmstrasse. Berlin in late June was a city of dust and molten air. The horse-drawn trams rattled past with their windows wide open, passengers fanning themselves with newspapers. Anna walked quickly, her leather handbag tucked under her arm, the letter a hard corner pressing against her ribs. The Foreign Office occupied a grand neoclassical building on the corner of Wilhelmstrasse and Behrenstrasse. Iron gates flanked the main entrance, guarded by sentries in spiked helmets. Anna nodded to the porter as she passed through the revolving door. The cool marble of the lobby hit her like a relief. Her desk was on the 2nd floor, in a long room shared by 6 other junior clerks. The windows faced east, and the morning light glared off the pale wood furniture. She hung her hat on the rack and sat down. The envelope came out of her bag and sat on the blotter in front of her. Around her, the office stirred. Typewriters clicked. A junior messenger hurried past with a stack of folders. Someone laughed near the window. Anna ignored them. Her eyes were fixed on the red wax seal. A colleague named Fritz leaned over the partition between their desks. He was a thin man with a nervous habit of tapping his fingers on the wood. "Anna," he said in a low voice, "have you heard the news from Serbia?" She looked up. "What news?" "There was an incident in Sarajevo 2 days ago." He glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. "Someone shot the Archduke." Anna's hand went to the envelope. "Franz Ferdinand?" Fritz nodded. "They say he is dead, and his wife too." A Serbian student pulled a pistol on them in the street. The clock on the wall ticked. Anna felt the room tilt slightly. She looked down at the envelope on her desk. Inked in the corner, faint but legible, was a date. June 23rd, 1914. 2 days before the assassination. This letter had been written before anyone knew of the shooting. She picked it up and pressed her thumb against the seal. Suddenly, she did not want to open it. Fritz was still talking, but she did not hear his words. The dust motes danced in the morning light, and the whole building felt tense, poised on something invisible. She stood up and walked toward the door of the Undersecretary's office. The letter was warm in her hand. Undersecretary Arthur Zimmermann was not at his desk. His secretary, a tired-eyed woman named Frau Richter, told Anna to leave the letter in the official tray. Anna shook her head. She would wait. The anteroom was small and airless. A portrait of Kaiser Wilhelm II stared down from the wall above a wooden filing cabinet. The Kaiser's mustache was waxed to sharp points. His uniform gleamed with medals. Anna had passed under that portrait 100 times, but today it felt heavier. She sat on a stiff chair and laid the envelope across her knees. The wax seal caught her eye again. She turned it over to read the typed label. Fräulein Anna Herzfeld, Clerk, German Foreign Office, Berlin. Handwritten below, in a hurried script, were the words, "Personal and confidential." And in the corner, the sender's name. It was not typed. It was written in black ink, in a fine, slanting hand. Count Leopold von Berthold. Anna recognized the signature immediately. Berthold was the Austro-Hungarian foreign minister. She had seen his letters before, though always through official channels, always with his name stamped in purple ink across the top. This was different. This was his own hand. She studied the stationery. The paper was heavy, slightly watermarked with the Habsburg crest. The date was clear, June 23rd, 1914, Tuesday, 2 days before the Archduke's assassination in Sarajevo. That detail struck her like a slap. If Berchtold had written this letter on Tuesday, he had done so before any bullet was fired. The letter was not a response to the shooting. It was a precursor, a warning perhaps, or a request. Anna turned the envelope over in her fingers. The wax seal was untouched. She had not opened it, but she knew what it was. A message from one capital to another, sent in secret, bypassing the usual clerks and ambassadors. A message that now sat in the hands of a junior secretary in Berlin, waiting for someone with authority to break the seal. She heard footsteps in the corridor. Zimmermann was coming. Anna stood up, the letter held loosely in her left hand. She did not know what the words inside said, but she already felt their weight. The seal of the double-headed eagle stared up at her, and the whole continent waited. Anna pressed her thumb against the edge of the wax seal. The double-headed eagle cracked cleanly, a sharp sound in the silence of the office. She slid the letter free and unfolded it. The paper was heavy, the handwriting dense and sloping. Count von Berchtold's own hand, as he had promised. She read the opening lines. The words were formal but urgent. Berchtold wrote of the threat from Serbia, of nationalist societies operating across the border, of a plot he could not yet confirm but feared. Then came the name, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne was to visit Sarajevo in 3 days. Berchtold warned that the visit carried great risk. He asked plainly for Germany's binding support should Austria be forced to take decisive action. The letter did not say that the Archduke had been killed. It could not. The date was June 23rd, and the shooting had not yet happened, but Berchtold wrote as though he knew something was coming. His words were a plea and a demand rolled into one. Austria needed to know that Berlin would stand with it, no matter what. Anna read the final paragraph twice. It ended with a request for a swift answer. The words that stood out were these: Germany's loyalty to the Triple Alliance must be proven when the hour strikes. She set the letter down. Her hands were steady now. The weight she had felt earlier was heavier still. This was not just a diplomatic note. It was a trigger, and the bullet had not even been fired yet. The corridors of the Foreign Office began to stir. Anna remained in the room, standing by the window, as Zimmermann reread the letter. She watched the street below. Carriages moved slowly. A newspaper vendor called out the afternoon headlines. No one knew what was inside that room. Then the door opened. Chancellor Bethmann Hollweg entered, followed by 2 military attachés in dark coats. He was a tall man with a somber face. He took the letter without a word, reading it the same way Zimmermann had. The attachés stood stiffly by the door. No one spoke. From somewhere outside, the bells of a church on the Wilhelmstrasse began to ring. It was 4 o'clock. Anna counted the strokes. When they stopped, the Chancellor looked up. "This is dated before Sarajevo," he said. His voice was low. "But the question remains the same. What do we tell Vienna?" The meeting moved into the Chancellor's private conference room. Anna was not invited, but she found a spot near the door. An old lock had worn loose, and the door did not close fully. A sliver of light and the sound of voices leaked into the corridor. General von Moltke spoke first. His voice was sharp, military. Austria must act. If we do not support them now, we lose our only reliable ally. The Serbs must be crushed, and we must make that clear. Bethmann Hollweg answered slowly. And if we support them and Russia intervenes, we face a war on two fronts. The Triple Alliance guarantees defense, not aggression. Paper rustled. Someone quoted the 1882 treaty. The words were precise. The alliance was defensive. If Austria attacked Serbia, they might be the aggressor, and Germany would not be bound to help. Moltke pushed back. Semantics. The next war will not wait for legal definitions. Delay is surrender. Anna leaned closer. She heard a chair scrape the floor. The Chancellor's voice again, tired but firm. You speak of war as a certainty. I speak of avoiding it. The argument continued. Anna kept her notebook open but did not write. She listened to the tension rising in the room, the sharp exchanges, the long silences. The letter on the table had drawn the men of Berlin into a room together, and they could not agree. Outside, the bells of the Wilhelmstrasse were silent, but Anna knew that the decision would not be. Somewhere in that room, a course was being set. The door opened. Zimmermann emerged with a single sheet of paper in his hand. He did not look at Anna. He walked to her desk and set the paper down. His fingers tapped the edge twice. Take this down, he said. Anna opened her notebook. She adjusted the ribbon on her typewriter. Zimmermann spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. The reply would go to Vienna. It would assure Count Berthold that Germany stood with Austria. It would not mention the limits of the Triple Alliance. It would not mention defensive war. It would simply promise support. Anna typed. The keys clicked in the quiet room. She wrote the words that would become the blank check of German foreign policy. She did not know that term yet. No one did. But she saw the margin where Zimmermann had scribbled a note. Full support was the phrase. No conditions. No warnings. He paused. Read that back, he said. Anna read the draft aloud. Her voice was steady. Zimmermann nodded once. He took the paper and carried it into the room where Bethmann Hollweg waited. The door closed. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Anna sat at her desk, her hands folded. She watched the door. Finally, it opened again. Zimmermann stepped out holding the signed copy. The seal was already pressed into the red wax. The Imperial Eagle stared up at her. Send this to the courier office, Zimmermann said. Personal attention. Mark it urgent. Anna took the letter. The paper was warm from the seal press. She looked at the date stamped at the top. June 28th, 1914. The same day that in Sarajevo, a young man named Gavrilo Princip raised a pistol and fired 2 shots. She did not know that yet either. She only knew the letter was heavy in her hand, and that history was moving faster than anyone could stop. Anna did not trust the regular diplomatic courier. The man was slow. He stopped for lunch. He carried letters in a satchel that hung loose at his side. She needed speed, so she walked quickly to the railway office on Friedrichstrasse, the signed letter tucked inside her coat. Her friend Margareta sat behind the counter, sorting waybills. Margareta was a clerk for the night express trains. She knew the schedules. She knew the conductors. She knew which men accepted a folded banknote without asking questions. Anna slid the letter across the counter. This needs to reach Vienna by morning, she said. Margareta glanced at the seal. She did not ask what it contained. She had learned long ago that some questions were better left unspoken. She picked up the letter and weighed it in her hand. The Leipzig train leaves in 40 minutes, she said. I know a conductor who owes me a favor. Anna waited while Margareta disappeared into the back office. The station clock ticked. Passengers hurried past with suitcases and newspapers. A vendor called out the afternoon editions. Anna bought one. The front page carried a small report from Sarajevo. An archduke shot. The details were thin. Margareta returned. She was smiling. The letter is on the express, she said. I told Friedrich to put it in his coat. Not in the mail car. Personal delivery to the foreign ministry in Vienna. He will hand it to the night clerk himself." Anna thanked her. She did not ask what the favor cost. The train left Leipzig at midnight. It passed through rolling hills and small stations where no one waited. The conductor, a man named Friedrich with a thick mustache, kept the letter in his inner pocket. He checked it once during the journey. He did not read it. He only felt the weight of the seal and wondered what news was so urgent that a woman would pay twice the fare to see it delivered. The train chugged toward Vienna at dawn. Smoke rose over the fields. The sun touched the spires of the city. Friedrich stepped onto the platform at the Westbahnhof, with the letter still warm against his chest. Count Leopold von Berchtold received the letter at his desk in the Bollhausplatz at 9 in the morning on June 29th. He had not slept. The news from Sarajevo had reached him 2 days earlier, and since then he had been writing telegrams, receiving reports, waiting for Berlin to speak. The envelope was crisp. The German seal was intact. Berchtold broke it with a letter opener and unfolded the paper inside. He read slowly. Then he read again. The German government assured Austria of its full support. The blank check was signed. No conditions, no limits. Whatever action Austria deemed necessary against Serbia, Germany would stand behind her. Berchtold set the paper down. Outside his window, the streets of Vienna were filling with people. They carried flags, they chanted slogans. The news of the Archduke's death had ignited something in the city. Anger, grief, a hunger for revenge. The crowds moved toward the Hofburg Palace, their voices rising in a single demand. Berchtold smiled grimly. He had what he needed. He called for his aid. A young man in a stiff uniform appeared in the doorway. "Take this to the Emperor," Berchtold said. "Personal delivery. Tell His Majesty that Berlin has replied. Tell him the answer is favorable." The aide took the letter and left at a run. His boots echoed down the marble hallway. Berchtold turned back to the window. The crowd was larger now. He could hear individual voices, sharp and angry. "Death to Serbia. Remember the Archduke." He watched them for a long moment. Then he sat down and began to draft the ultimatum that would be sent to Belgrade. The document was dated July 23, 1914. It contained 10 demands. Serbia would accept every one or face war, and behind Austria stood Germany, ready with the full weight of its army and its treasury. The letter that Anna had typed in Berlin now sat on the Emperor's desk in Vienna. The chain was complete. The course was set. Anna Herzfeld was crossing the Wilhelmstrasse on her way to lunch when she heard the newsboys. Their cries cut through the midday noise like a knife. Extra edition. Extra edition. Austria issues ultimatum. She stopped. A boy thrust a damp sheet into her hand. The headline was stark. Austria-Hungary demands satisfaction from Serbia. 10 points presented to Belgrade. Deadline 48 hours. She stood still on the cobblestones. Pedestrians jostled past her, some snatching copies, others ignoring the shouting altogether. Anna read the first paragraph twice. The demands were harsh. They were meant to be refused. She knew that now, the way she had not known when she first saw the letter on her table on June 25th. Her mind went back to that morning. The cream-colored envelope, the red Vienna seal, the bold hand of Count Berchtold. She had carried it through these same corridors, past the Kaiser's portrait, up the stairs to Zimmermann's office. She had typed the reply herself, the words still cold in her memory. The assurance of support, the promise of Germany's full weight. And now here it was. July 23rd, 1914. The ultimatum was on the streets of Berlin. The chain she had helped forge was complete. Anna folded the newspaper and tucked it under her arm. She did not feel triumphant. She felt the weight of something irreversible, something that had begun with a single piece of paper on a quiet morning. The letter she had opened with trembling hands had crossed borders, passed through offices, landed on an emperor's desk, and now it had become this. She looked up at the Foreign Office building. Men in uniforms hurried in and out. Telephones rang inside. The machinery of war was already turning. And Anna Herzfeld, a typist in the German Foreign Office, had helped set it in motion. She had only done her job, but her job had started a war.